Does spending the whole day procrastinating until finally finding your motivation after midnight sound familiar? Do you often wait for your motivation to kick in until you start working? You're not alone. In this video, I will tell you where motivation comes from and how you can create it. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jay Francis and I am a medical resident who like to share the ways that improved my life and productivity. In the scientific literature, they describe two types of motivation, the intrinsic and the extrinsic motivation. The intrinsic one is defined as a positive inner feeling while we are performing the activity. It's like an inner drive. It can be an enjoyment, a pleasure feeling, etc. And there's the extrinsic one, defined as a goal or reward that is achieved through performing the activity. This can be, for example, money or some other prize you can get. But how are these two interconnected? Many theories exist about the interplay between these two motivations. But a recently adopted theory is the following. Intrinsic motivation plays an important role in achieving higher levels of commitment and compliance. It lasts longer, gives better performance. But unfortunately, it is not always present. Extrinsic motivation can play a positive or a negative role. It can be useful when your inner drive is very low. But if you have a good level of intrinsic motivation, externally set incentives can undermine your inner drive. The remaining question is, if the intrinsic motivation is actually the real engine here, the real fuel for your motivation, how can we create it? Studies are not 100% conclusive yet about this matter, but I will cite here the most widely accepted theories and the opinion of the experts. First of all, the purpose. When you have a strong purpose why you're doing a certain activity, it can ignite your inner motivation. But what usually happens is that we tend to forget the purpose when the action is a long-term process. This is why it's very important to do it in a timely manner to remind yourself every time why you are doing this in the first place. Number two, the interest. Obviously, there are subjects that we are naturally interested in. We have some sort of curiosity. I wouldn't expect someone who had never had a taste for history be interested in a project about the World War II. So the logical thing to do here is to work on subjects and topics that are of interest to us. But sometimes we are kind of obliged to work on something we don't really like. What we can do here is to try to find at least a small portion of this big project that can be somehow interesting to us. Third, mastery. This one is my favorite, the appetitive mastery. To grow this inner drive, one must simplify the task ahead. Not too simple to become very boring, but not too hard to become discouraging. The interesting fact here is, while we start building this skill step by step by doing it, we will start liking the activity itself more and more. Because we are seeing some improvement, we will be naturally more motivated. For example, if your aim is to do some cardio exercise, at first you can only bear 10 to 15 minutes on the treadmill. With some practice and consistency, you discover that now you can last longer, for example 20 to 25 minutes. This little feeling of mastery will actually grow your inner motivation, your intrinsic motivation, making you more compliant and liking your gym sessions. What you only need to do here is to trust this process and force yourself for the first few times until you start seeing some improvement. The fourth point, I will call it start. An interesting pattern I have discovered while doing the research about this topic is that how much the term motivation is misused by us. At first, I used to think that motivation is this sort of inspiration that will give me a lot of energy mentally and physically, and I will be very much focused, and this is something out of my control. It either exists or doesn't. But in fact, no matter how demotivated you are, if you stand up and start doing your activity blindly, you will notice that things are actually rolling after some time, and they are not as bad as you have imagined. So a shortcut to use here is simply start. I really hope this video was useful and will save you some time. Stop waiting for motivation, go and create it yourself. If you like it, hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends, and see you next time.